Welcome to episode 22 of Burning the Red Shirt podcast. I'm your host, Zach Tao, and with me again are Andrew Katz and Chris K. You guys doing all right on this Monday?
This Monday after work hours, doing great.
Monday evening. Yep.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Yeah.
How about you, man?
I'm doing great. Just actually got back into town about an hour and a half ago. So knock this podcast out.
The old midday flight. Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Exactly.
to have you back.
Midday flight. So I know we don't have a ton to talk about, but I know you guys are participating in a supplemental draft for a dynasty. How many rounds did you guys say it was?
It's like 25. It
25?
just continues until
And are you currently in it now? It's still going?
we're like mid to end second round.
All right, I guess
All
we
the
can.
all the good players are already gone.
So we can, I guess, kind of jump into that. I don't have that in front of me, so you guys want to kind of talk about the picks that kind of went early, what surprised you, what stupid, who hasn't gone yet?
Who won this league last year?
I think that was me.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe ask Mike and Josh, and they might be able to tell you. They have a better memory than me. But what's the way these drafts are set up? Because I have the 13th pick. Is it like based on regular season or something?
Dude, Wes had like, were you in this league when Wes actually started it? Because
Yeah.
okay, I was not. I inherited a team, and I had the fortune of going through what JD is presently going for, and being told that when you enter this league, it doesn't matter how you did the previous year, you move to the back of the line from a draft perspective.
Oh, that's why. I love that.
Yeah. No, it was nice for me as well because JD inherited David Hale's garbage franchise, the ACC dumpster fire, and moved from the first pick to the last pick, and then your boy moved up to the second pick as a result. Which I mean is ridiculous to begin with, considering my team put up bountiful amounts of points and just ran into monsters week after week. So that was unfortunate, but
David Hale's team will be missed.
Oh,
Mostly because
definitely.
people can now own an ACC quarterback now, which is fun. He had like 80% of them. He had like all of them.
I tried to use his team as a magnifying glass to look into, like, okay, this guy has like ACC connections, so I can look at his roster and it can help me unearth gems for like burgeoning players in that conference. And like I tried to use it across other leagues and it didn't really work. Like I got Gavin Blackwell and the guy Banks on Wake Forest because I saw he owned them, and they both haven't done anything. So it's been really fruitful.
The thing is, that's a great idea, except he owned every single ACC player, period. So like,
he's gonna miss.
Yeah, he's gonna miss. So it's sad to see him go, but JD will do a great job with that team. Maybe that's where we started with, because he had 3 of the first 15 picks based on some trades and stuff. And now, like, this is like a true rebuild. What was his pick going to be? Like second?
JD would have had it was either the first or second. So then, I moved up from 3 to 2, which is great.
So true rebuild. He does not have a ton of talent, and I think 2 of his 3 picks make a ton of sense, and his 3rd pick is really confusing to me. So he went with Damien Martinez with the 10th pick. He had Cartevious Norton with the 14th pick, and then he took Brian Cobbs with the 15th pick. Were you surprised? That felt weird.
I think that, I mean, it's fine, like balancing short and long term, because long term only means so much when it comes to CFF, right? Even though everyone's got infinite eligibility, at the same time, when you can, it's not fun going through a rebuild in CFF. So if you can bring some value to the present just to make the league a little more enjoyable, why not? I think JD is pretty bought in on Cobbs based on some of the drafts we've been doing together. I'm kind of sketched out on him. I feel like there's a collection of like 5 people that tweet out about Utah State stuff generally on Twitter, and like I've seen one guy, just every single thing he tweets is just like, Cobbs is gonna be an All-American, Cobbs is gonna be an All-American, and like, so that seeing that over and over again has definitely done a lot to amplify Cobbs' value relative to some of the other Utah State receivers. But you can craft decent arguments, I think, for any of the 5 of Cobbs, McGriff, Xavier Williams, Nana Davis, and Terrell Vaughn. And I don't think that there's anything out there that like definitively can have you feeling ultra confident about any one of them surfacing as the top guy. Not necessarily that they need to be that Devin Tompkins to offer any sort of value, like at all, any sort of value at all. But I don't know. It's a tough read. Like I thought for a while I was gonna be confident snagging Xavier Williams at the end of drafts, but the more I kind of read about that, the more it makes me think I don't know how well that's going to play out. And it's Cobbs is so expensive at this point. I don't know how you can really draft him and think that he is going to definitively return value at that price.
So you named off 3 picks, but who went first? I'm trying to learn if our
in the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris went on his own tangent of trying to analyze JD's team, but the first
Right
overall
into
pick
it.
in the draft. So your boy had the second pick again
Okay.
because the fates conspired the previous year. No fault of his own. And but I traded from pick 2 to pick 1 with Justin Heisey. I gave him another Utah State receiver. I sent him the second pick in the draft and Justin McGriff in exchange for the first overall pick because I don't know. I personally very much enjoy the power that comes with having the first overall pick and having the keys to the car. Just having that in the palm of your hand is a great feeling. So I locked that up a little over a month ago, and it was. I'm not going to pretend to be some freshman savant, but I was pretty confident when I acquired the pick and never really wavered from the idea that I wanted to bring Nicholas Singleton onto my team, pair him with Travion, and hopefully he follows a somewhat similar track that Travion followed last year. I don't think that it's fair to assume that their progression is going to be totally apples to apples, but the idea of pairing them together and doing so where they're both total monsters for a season and a half sounded too awesome to me to pass up.
Yeah, and he's the clear first choice. We did a poll yesterday, and I think it was like 65% of like 130 people picked him as the first pick. So
yeah,
I think the gray area was like, who do you pick second? Who do you pick third? And that was like obviously Burden or Cameron Ward. Singleton was definitely the first pick, so like you weren't going to get him at 2. So thought it was interesting. I was like, I looked this morning, like, how did Andrew get the first pick? I wonder if he did something crazy and got like lucked into it, or if he swapped it, which he did.
So who did Heisey take with the second pick that you gave up?
Luther Burden.
Okay. So pretty much.
I figured I probably gave him. What would you say? What would you say McGriff's equity is at being something representative of an alpha at Utah State, which is obviously like a very coveted role? What's his equity there?
I mean, you think there's 5 guys in contention, and I think we all agree Cobbs is probably that first guy. I was going to say McGriff's probably around 25-30%.
Yeah,
with Cobbs at like 50. Like, I don't know. I think like if you think Singleton's your guy, and that's like who you want, why not, right? Like,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it. You know, the only thing is that I would worry about is what does Luther Burden put up at Alabama next year? That could be huge.
Yeah.
All right. I guess since again I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
I guess run down the list of kind of the order of.
Yeah, I can run out some of these the first round. So Cameron Ward went 3rd.
Right.
Javonte Barnes, the Oklahoma running back, went 4th. Then we went Tracy from Purdue, Klubnik from Clemson, the quarterback, Chris Thornton, the JMU receiver, Devin Brown. Then McMillan, the Arizona receiver, Martinez, the Oregon State running back. Then is it Brady Allen, the Purdue quarterback, went 11th?
Yeah,
that's not a good sign for Teddy. Citizen, the Miami guy, went 12th. I took Matthew Golden at 13, and then Norton went 14. So I thought there was probably 3 surprising picks, and then the rest of them felt pretty on par. Like, I don't know, Javonte Barnes at 4 felt high, but like, if you love him,
I think Jordan's an Oklahoma guy.
Is he? I mean, if you love him, he's probably not getting back to you.
No, he's a Kansas guy actually, but I think he might root for both, which is weird. I'm not sure.
No judgment. They're not going to be in the same conference in a couple of years, so they're good.
Right.
What I know you traded up to get Singleton. Like, did you need running back, or did you just feel like that he was too good to not get this draft? Like, what is your? I don't know what your roster looks like. So
My roster's pretty sweet. We'll be there and making a playoff run. I've still got some work to do, I think, to get it to peak competitive status, but I wasn't super interested in using the number one overall pick on a quarterback. The freshman quarterbacks generally don't seem like to do it for me relative to the skill talent. Cameron Ward, I wasn't really feeling that either. And generally, my QB strategy is like I can figure it out. I can make it work. Not it doesn't always work out in this league in particular. I think last year I struggled a little bit to find a QB too, but I'm in a decent enough place. I think going into this year at QB where we'll get it done. And then running back, I've got Jordan Mims, I've got Travion, I've got Carson Steele. It's definitely I definitely don't have the depth I would like, and I don't have upper echelon talent. So with that in combination with Singleton, I think just generally being head and shoulders above every other freshman, that it didn't feel like it was too difficult.
I think if you are, I don't know if best player availability is like best player available is the best option at the first pick. I think you just go with the guy that you think is going to be the stud for the longest amount of time, and you can fill in the rest. Like Cameron Ward is a fine option.
So,
I think we've talked about him.
I guess it's a good question to ask then. So if let's say you had the number one pick, are you filling need or are you filling best player available? Like
I'm just taking the best.
Like if you needed wide receiver, you go Burden, right?
Yeah, I misspoke. I'm sorry. You take the best player available. You don't take based on need, is what I meant to say. So yeah. I think technically speaking, quarterback could have made sense for Andrew based on his roster, but like he's also not so heavy like with studs at running back and receiver that I think Singleton fits both molds. But I think, in generally speaking, like I would have taken Singleton, and I have 30 stud running backs. So if that helps answer that for you.
I don't think need ever really makes sense just because, like, if one player's unequivocally better than the field and you're stocked to that position, you just trade him. It's not like there's no point in leaking value, assuming you believe in the guy.
That's fair. I was kind of going to get there. I figured if at the very least you trade your assets for something you do need down the road.
Yeah. This league isn't this league's the dynasty league of the ilk where all the rosters are like 50 players. So when you think about supplemental player pool, and that it's the freshmen and then players who weren't owned but have seen their stock rise up to the point where they're now in consideration for early picks, all those players are pretty much all already owned. There's no Miles Price in the pool.
How many teams?
How
many
14.
Teams? 14? Okay.
Yeah, I think in our other one, like I think for instance, maybe ours or even like the Winning Edge one that Andrew and I are in, or maybe Andrew's not in. He keeps
we go through this.
We do this every time. I'm in too many leagues. There's like Price and Trigg and all these guys are available.
I might have to join that league just so the answer changes.
Just to get this, yeah, just to get
next time you ask it.
So, yeah, this is Andrew's right. Like this is basically all freshmen, and then like the guy that transferred and fell into a good situation, like the next man up that for some reason slipped by. Like Gavin Williams is a great example of like a next man up that kind of slipped through. Iowa running back, and he went I think like 16 or 17. So that's pretty much all freshmen really.
Gotcha. So I guess we can run through both of y'all's picks just to, I mean, there's 14 teams. A lot of these guys are going to be notable players. So who did you guys take?
Just Singleton so far, waiting for it to get back to me.
Oh, we're only in the first round. Okay.
Yeah, we're only halfway through the second, basically. It just started this morning.
It's not Snake. It is Snake.
It is Snake, yeah. I had traded my second rounder. I'm scared to look for like what I traded it for. And I actually don't think I can find it, which is probably a good thing.
That's a good question I'm going to ask. So when you make a trade and you get to that, future picks or whatever, and you come back to the next year and you're like, man, what did I trade for this? Like, do you try to make sure you get the value out of that trade a year later? Or you're just like, you know what, screw it. I made the deal. This is the pick I've got. I'm just going to make the pick. Like,
it's fun to think about it that way.
You understand my question? Like,
yeah.
You're like, okay, I gave this up for it. Do I really? I feel like I need to make this pick count. Like, because I used to do that, and now I'm just like, you know what, I either made a good deal or a bad deal. It is what it is.
I think there's like a learning component to it, which is nice. Like, hey, okay, well, like, last year I was throwing picks like out at trades for anything. And then like it's good to be like, okay, well, like in theory, this is what that type of player is going to be. And now does that make sense? But like with me, I make enough bad trades that I just would prefer not to look back at how bad they were. So I don't really look until I get really bored, and then I try to find it, but I don't think I can find it. I looked a little bit earlier.
I usually only look when I know I got a good deal. I'm like, oh yeah, look at that great deal I got 3 studs for like a couple future picks that I know that he wasted on. Oh, do you guys go and look and see what they drafted with the picks you traded?
No, I'm not that fucking twisted.
That's a little too deep.
Okay.
It's a little too deep.
Okay. Well, since you guys are just in the beginning of that draft, I think we can kind of move on to the news that we kind of got today.
Well, hold on. Have you? So, do you use the Score app? I can't remember.
I do.
Did you notice that they finally rolled over NCAA football?
I haven't.
To 2022. It was like within the last week. It was right around when media days start kicking off, which is inexcusable. It should have been done in February, obviously. But it's great because like that's
February when we send our emails to Fantrax.
Should start hitting up the Score as well. But it's great because I mean, when I'm trying to just look at get a feel for a slate of games for a given week, that's my go-to spot. Navigating ESPN or any other schedule it just doesn't come close, in my opinion.
I think we've discussed this. I use the Score app, but I really use the Yahoo Sports app.
I refuse to believe that that's actually usable. Like my experience with Yahoo Fantasy or Scores app is just like it's for maybe I guess they've redone their app because it was so unusable back in the day. Like my phone would just die instantly, more or less.
Well, we know you like the Score app because it tells you the time until they're back from halftime, correct?
That's Action.
That's
Action.
Action.
I started using Action last year when the Score was down for multiple weeks at the beginning of the year. And I don't know if you can personally identify the Action app when like our fellow degenerates are sharing pictures on Twitter, but it's very recognizable because it's got the it's got like the field in the background. It's very personalized and it's very clearly the Action app. But you're right, it's an amazing feature like that the Action app shows you like when a game goes to halftime, how the countdown until the second half starts, which is like I know you're like me. If you're whatever app you're using otherwise, you're just hitting the refresh over and over, waiting for the effing game to come back. But with that, I mean, they solved that's the answer to the riddle there. So, I mean, props to them. But I mean, actually seeing the Score app roll over to week 0 and week 1, they've combined the two.
Yeah, I was going to say they call it week 1.
Everyone tends to do this, and it's not giving week 0 its proper due, in my opinion. It needs to be its own entity. Those teams need to be recognized for the value they're delivering to us, and I think that's a good way of doing it. But they just like seeing all the games on that one screen, like really, and the time associated with the games really starts to like give me the sense like, all right, we're not that far off. We're getting there. We're almost there, and also it gives you good context into the window or what the windows look like for that week. Obviously, our graphics do a better job of that, right? The graphics that all of us in some way, shape, or form have started to do for whether it be conference media days or week 0. But I don't know about you, but I've started to just like form some thoughts on those windows for week 1. Like there's and week 0. I can't believe that we still don't have a game time for some of these games. Like the Nevada game in week 0, that's a month away. What if people are trying to plan flights to go to that game or like plan their some people are very, very regimented when it comes to scheduling their trips. Like my buddy who plans all of our college football trips, this would be beyond unacceptable based on how he likes to structure itineraries. But I mean, that game in week 0 still doesn't have a time. And then week 1, the Hawaii WKU game does not have a time either. And obviously, once we get intra-season, like things are different, right? Because
Yeah.
of the TV elements of like got like the week or two leading up to the games where the TV channels can hold everyone hostage and not say what network or what time games are. But I feel like that's a little different. You've had 10 months or whatever at this point to like, or 8 months to like figure this shit out, and we still don't like what's the holdup?
Well, I'm
But
thinking they're probably trying to get a network to pick it up, like Nevada,
you
New
think
Mexico
that's probably
State.
it, yeah.
So they're probably trying to auction it off to whoever will pick it up. It's gonna,
The
it's
high
gonna,
bidder for Nevada, New Mexico State.
right, and it's probably gonna end up on FS2, something
We
like
could
that.
play. We could place a bid. I mean,
Yeah, I'm thinking we just stream it live from the
Get some
BTR
boots on the
account.
ground.
Look, if they want to pay us to go be boots on the ground in Las Cruces, I think we do it
What's the best game that day?
in week 0.
week
Which, by the
zero,
way,
it
which by
is
the
tough.
way, you alluded to our graphics. We actually have posted a graphic with the schedule breakdown for week 0. If you haven't checked our Twitter account, do so. Nice, colorful graphic that y'all contributed on. But yeah, anyway, you can answer the question. The best game.
The best game. I mean, it's tough to argue anything other than Hawaii Vanderbilt, right? Even though Chris was successful in his attempt to stage a coup against my week 0 onslaught and get those games removed from our Roto World leagues. I will no longer be attaining my rightfully earned and deserved 40 points from Mike Wright that night, but it's still gonna be a great game. Like I'm already thinking about that. Like this is the one slate of the year or that in week 1, I guess, where you can actually think about a DFS slate like from a ways off, right? Like what you can't go planning for week 2 DFS at any point before week 1 ends, right? With any sort of outside of setting up templates and stuff like that. But that's not, I don't know, from like a theory perspective and a strategic perspective. But like week 0, week 1, you could actually start thinking about stuff and like what's outside of position battles and injuries, what else is really going to change? And the knowledge that we have in terms of what expectation going into those games pretty much is what it is at this point. So
By the way,
that with respect to that game though, that's like I feel like owning Mike Wright is going to be such a rewarding opportunity that night, right? Maybe that game is on a slate with some other games. People are more inclined to lean into Timmy Chang in Hawaii, and Mike Wright just comes in and runs for 204.
There you go.
I don't even get CBS Sports Network, which is just disappointing to see that that's what that's on.
I could be wrong. I believe there may be only one ESPN game that day.
It's just the what is the ESPN game? I don't think they have an ESPN.
There's not an
game.
ESPN.
Very
game.
strange. Like,
I mean, to be fair, which one would you? I mean, the best game. Okay, so I think theoretically speaking, people would say Nebraska Northwestern.
I was just gonna say, don't say
best game, but I think it's only because it's like, oh, you have like a conference game week
in
0.
Ireland.
It's in Ireland, but like I might find myself not watching any of that game. I think I think Hawaii and Vanderbilt's the best game of the day. If Wyoming hadn't had like a million guys transfer, that would be really hot compared, versus Illinois. But I think the one that we might learn the most on is Austin Peay against Western Kentucky. And I say that because if they don't put up like 63 points against Austin Peay, then we have all gone way too crazy on the whole Western Kentucky thing. If they put up like 21 points, then I would fire sell all those guys. If you can't put up, because like that offense should do whatever it wants against that. Now they might also give up a million points, but they should score regardless.
So
the more I think about it, the more I want. I can't take too hard a stance on this since I've already taken like a decent amount of Texas Tech and will continue to take Miles Price when I can. But I think it is likely that the biggest learning from the early season of WKU and Texas Tech will be that Bailey Zappi was so good that we just didn't give enough credit to what he did for that team.
Like it's easily replaceable. Like you could just
the idea that you're just going to slot Jared Dagey in there, and it's gonna be an all representative of anything that Zappy did. Is insane.
There's like rumblings that this transfer Austin Reed is like doing a good job of competing. That he like, maybe he doesn't win the job, but he's like close enough where if Diggy only puts up 21 points against Austin P, that Reed might have a shot.
It's Jared Diggy, dude. The dude couldn't even be good at Bowling Green, and then went to West Virginia, led that garbage offense, and now, I mean, what is it really going to be surprising when he doesn't blow the doors off of Conference USA?
It's not. I just think, right, like the problem is that it's a horrible conference with a great offensive system that, like,
Yeah.
even if he does 70% of Bailey Zappi, that's still like a ton of yards and a ton of touchdowns.
It's a top 20 quarterback still. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be close to it at least.
I gave Mike shit the first time he took Austin Reed when he was on the clock and that guy announced his transfer to WKU. But the more like I haven't seen the rumblings you're talking about, but just based on where players have been going and that Reed has like continued to get picked a little bit here and there, I think would it be that surprising, right? If he ascended?
To stay on brand for myself, at least, I am not Cameron Ward. I'm not pro Cameron Ward, and I can't really be pro Austin Reed. I mean, the guy transferred from like Northern Florida, right? Like, I understand.
Not even FCS.
They were like deep, yeah. So, is it possible? Sure, but like, I mean, if Daggy could be good, I guess anybody could be good in that offense. I don't know. It's someone said it the other day. Like, they said, like, they retweeted our image, our graphic, and was like proof that like we just want football. It's like when people get jacked up about like week 1 of preseason football, and it's like, this is amazing. I think the more casual fan will be like, oh my God, football is back for week 0. And then maybe like by the time Northwestern scores their first touchdown in like the 4th quarter of the Nebraska game, they're like, okay, I think I've had enough. I can wait a week. I'm good.
So I would counter. Hold on, Andrew. I want to jump in real quick. So UConn at Utah State, like the biggest contrast of week 0 and week 1 opponents, I think, for Utah State. Right? Don't they play Alabama week 1? Utah State?
I don't know.
Yeah, so they play UConn week 0 to warm up to play Alabama.
Yeah. Which I feel like they could have done a better job of warming up.
Which they're also, I think, a 38.5 point underdog to Alabama. Which they're probably a 38.5 point favorite against UConn.
It's 28.
28. So that's I noticed that. I was like, man, you get UConn week 0, then you just pack it up and say, all right, we're gonna go to Tuscaloosa and hope for the best. Like, at what point of that game do they say, okay, this week is gonna look nothing like next week? At what point of that game do they decide that? When they walk out there?
You want my personal conspiracy theory surrounding the UConn game?
Okay.
So they've tried to do everything they can to deny this, but I'm convinced that Logan Bonner doesn't play in that week 0 game against UConn. If you poke around the message boards enough, you can find out he to some capacity tore his ACL in the bowl game. In like December 18th, it was the bowl game against Oregon State, and just based on following the progression of interviews and stuff, it sounds like all right, a little bit of time passes, so maybe late December, early January, eventually gets surgery. Doesn't play in the spring at all, sits out the entire spring with a torn, so he's got a torn ACL, and by the time fall camp kicks off, right, he's going to be, I mean, the math is a little tricky, I guess, but 7 months and change away from that. And every position's different. It's not like that dude is known for his movement skills or anything like that. But being ready for week 1 or week 0, right? And or sending him to Tuscaloosa coming off the torn ACL. Like, these sound like dicey propositions to me. And Blake Anderson and Logan Bonner have said, like, yeah, we expect him to be ready, et cetera, et cetera. But I will believe it when I've seen it. When I see it, like I haven't drafted any Bonner. I've gone out of my way to get his backup, not Levi Williams, Cooper. Apparently, it's pronounced Lega, Cooper Lega, not Legas.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't believe that he's going to be ready. But I mean, I guess who knows? Like we get so much sketchy info, but like coming back from a torn ACL that quickly feels like it's a dicier proposition than it feels like we are assuming based on the little that we've heard.
I hope they're not saving him for Bama. Like they're like, we don't want to risk it getting worse against UConn. Let's just say. I feel like if you can't make week 0, then like just skip week 1. Like
no, send him in against Bama.
You heard what Dion said about
Let
Alabama.
Will Anderson get a hold of him.
I saw he had some quote about playing Bama, right?
So they asked him like, "Do you want to play Alabama? Like you know how like HBCUs play like the big boys, if you will, and they get a payoff and that, right? Like any other FCS school." And he basically said, "I'm not going to exploit my kids for a paycheck, blah blah blah." But he says we're not on that level yet. I'm paraphrasing, but we're not on that level yet. But give us a year or so and we'll be ready. Like, but I think that's like, you know, it's like we get the typical coach speak. So we're gonna prepare like any other week, you know, blah blah blah. No, you're not. Come on, you're not. You're playing Alabama. You're going in there to get the brakes beat off of you, and you just really hope that you don't come away with a bunch of injuries. I feel like that's if you're coaching one of those FCS programs and you go into Tuscaloosa to play Alabama or any Georgia or any big powerhouse team, like you're just hoping you can walk away with a full roster.
I think coaches are hoping they can keep it, like I wouldn't say like a top 5 team like a Georgia or Bama, right? Like yeah. I think those are pretty much like, let's just get these guys in some reps and against high competition, see how they perform. I think like you know, like an App State, Michigan, right? Like I think App State probably went into that game like, we're really good. Let's just try to keep it close at halftime. And then like, let's make a couple adjustments and like, let's get out there and try to win it, right? Like obviously they're trying to win the whole time, but like that type of mentality where it's like, keep it close and then let's make a move. Like, I think that makes sense, but I think that
be within a score going into the fourth quarter type of thing.
Yeah. And I think then the Jackson State stuff came off the backs of Nick Saban saying that he loves and like is fully on board with Alabama playing in-state schools. Did you see that comment he made? Basically, yeah, I fully support and love, you know, playing in-state schools. He has literally never played an in-state school at Bama except for Auburn. Right. It's so great.
When do we get the Troy matchup?
They'll never play Troy. I don't think, you know, there's zero upside to that, right? Like you just they played UAB back in the day and got beat up right before Saban. So they probably have some bad memories on that stuff.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's also interesting how they rarely ever leave the South for any games. Like they're ironically, don't they play Texas this year?
Yeah, they played Texas. Yeah.
It's at Texas, right?
I want to say it's probably at like Jerry's World, isn't it?
Texas.
Yeah, like that's a rarity that they play a regular season game, a non-conference game away. But I guess if they're playing at Jerry's World, you know, it's not really technically.
Well,
they've played more games there than Texas has.
I'll look it up real quick.
But anyway, I saw that Jackson State quote and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not necessarily not a fan. I couldn't really care less Deion Sanders at Jackson State. That's great, but I feel like that he's a coach that's like breaking all the molds of like coach speak. He's going to tell you the truth. Like, look, we're not ready or we are ready. And like, okay, question. Do you think he takes a P5 job ever, or do you think he just stays at Jackson State? And
100%. Yeah. Just a matter of how soon.
So when does he coach Florida State? How long until he's the coach at Florida?
Well, it's going to be a weird, tough decision for him. Quickly, they play at Texas, not Jerry World.
Okay.
Bama.
Which is a rarity, but go ahead.
Which is a rarity, yeah. So the problem with Florida State is that he has to make a quick decision because, I mean, their coach is going to be gone after this year, right? So it's not like Florida State's teed up for like 2-3 years from now where I think like a respectable, I think anybody can understand that type of move. but it's going to be a quick turnaround. So it's going to be, okay, well, you got 1 year at Jackson State, then you kind of look like a jackwagon for all the stuff that you said and like building up the, not yet. We're not ready to play Bama yet. Like, give us a year. Like, don't say that if you're just going to bolt in a year. So he'll be in a tough situation.
But don't you think half of those players are going to follow him to Florida State anyway?
Do you think he maybe goes 2 years and gets like another good recruiting class?
Very possible.
And then
I mean,
and tries to get.
He could
2
have
years
this
on?
whole thing figured out already. Like, I'm just going to get all these kids to come to Jackson State knowing they're going to follow me to wherever I go and have an immediate recruiting class by default.
I think if Jackson State they're going to be successful this year, but if they like are elite for their conference, their division, then I wonder think about all the recruits that'll go. And with this new rule that's coming in play, right, where you can, I don't know when it goes into effect and if it's 100% official, but like the whole you can transfer as many times as you want.
Right.
The Jarrett Dagey / Brew McCoy rule. It makes you wonder, like, if he goes anywhere, you would think that like Deion's one of the like coolest looking, sounding, greatest players in college football history. So like, why wouldn't you want to go play for him?
And he's a good coach. Top of it,
he seems to be a very good coach as well.
All right, so you brought up a name that I kind of want to touch on. No, you don't want to talk about this right now. So the word is this morning that Brew McCoy is not eligible. What are the percentages that we think he is eligible? I mean, all jokes aside, like that's kind of a big deal for our teams that we've been. Right?
It could be any sort of number, like you could tell me any percentage and I would believe it. I think best case, it's probably 65-35 he's eligible, but we don't know what it is. All that Josh Heupel said last week was that he's not officially eligible. There's one other thing to pass, essentially, and that when they know, they'll know. That is literally it. I tweeted at a beat reporter today because, of course, I haven't found Brew's mom on Twitter yet, so I'll tweet her eventually, but it could be anything.
I wonder if it's the thing you alluded to earlier with the whole transfer as many times as you want thing. Like if they're waiting for that like official like stamp to be approved, and then now he can just.
It's weird because he sat out last year. Do we know if he went to USC like as a student? Because he wasn't a scholarship athlete, which like that's kind of like the big tie is usually like if you sign a scholarship and you're getting paid for that, like that's like the decision between like, okay, this is an actual transfer that counts or like is up for debate or whatever versus like, because if Stetson Bennett said, screw it, I'm just going to go to Georgia and not be an athlete and just be a straight student, he could probably transfer somewhere next year if there was like no transfer rules or if the rules were like stricter, right? So like it could be anything. I'm very scared right now.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stock in him across the league.
I have all the stock in him.
Well, we have it in the I've got a couple actually. The ones that I've done without you, I think I've taken him in. And then the BTR.
He's in the intro, right?
Yeah, he's in the intro.
He's in the alternate intro. I have multiple. So, all right. Well, is any other topics you want to discuss before we jump into the win?
I think the only other hot button thing was Prize Picks, but I think everybody's kind of beating that one down after Chasing the Natty did it. I don't think we need to do it. But
well, then let's transition to our win totals series that we do. And this is the first time we've done it with all three of us with the new setup. All right. Florida State. This is from the Discord. I don't know who suggested Florida State. But what do you guys think about Florida State this year? You guys already think they're going to have a new head coach next year. So they're going to start off with a win, right? Week 0, they get Duquesne. Right? We're going to agree with a win? You guys going to...
Yeah, I'm just... am I the only one that's hearing you weird? Andrew, do you hear that?
Yeah, but I picked up enough to understand that Zach is trying to hint us towards affirming a win for Florida State over Duquesne.
Okay, I don't know what you guys heard or didn't hear, but I
You kind of
think
sound like you just chugged like 2 energy drinks, and then you're like kind of like super sped up with like a little mix of Crackle.
oh
And it started when you were sharing the schedule.
oh well, I'll re-say it then. Florida State was mentioned in the Discord. They played Duquesne in week 0.
Yeah, we'll give them the win over Duquesne. And then I don't know if you noticed week 1 though, that is no normal game, right? That is the highly coveted Sunday night game of week 1.
Ah, that's a good one. So,
One of the best windows of the entire year, I would say. It's a top 10 for sure. We have to. I think we do a show before the season or a segment talking to the top 10 windows. One of my favorite topics, the best college football windows of the entire year, and that's clearly top 10. As is Labor Day night gets its own entry into the top 10 as well. But the Sunday night game's great, right? Because everybody's got off Monday. Everyone's on the same page. We're all just we're on a mission that night to just keep it going, get demoed, and not have to pay any consequences on Monday. And we got that game there for us to keep us comfort, right? So it's great.
Do we think that's actually going to be close? I guess LSU is not typical LSU, so I think this actually would be closer than in theory.
What's
I
the
wish
line?
I could say I cared enough about line play to know anything about it. But my last memory of LSU is them barely having enough defenders to field the team against Kansas State, right? So I don't know what they've done to rebound from that, from a roster strength and just more body perspective. But I'm not, for better or worse, I'm not going into the season assuming that they're like that loaded LSU squad that we come to expect from like a top to bottom, all along the lines, killer defense type of deal. Like I think it could be a game. Where is it played?
Superdome.
It's
Is
in
that
New
Superdome?
Orleans.
Nice.
So we're gonna say 1-1 for Florida State.
Tough.
I'm saying loss to LSU.
Yeah, I think that's fair. How many quarters does Travis miss in that game from just getting bludgeoned?
I mean, he's probably 50% after the Duquesne game. I mean, he's got to get 25 carries against Duquesne.
Yeah.
He might be at 20 at halftime of this LSU. I mean, he might – over-under is probably like 3 quarters for him to play it. I think LSU wins. They got 3 quarterbacks, which is better than 1.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, I just don't have any faith in FSU. So, like, LSU could – have no quarterback, and I'd probably pick LSU over Florida State.
Yeah, they got the double bye week, as we can see here, but they cut the week 2 technically bye week, then they come back and play at Louisville on a Friday night in Louisville.
Ooh, that's fun.
I'm picking Louisville.
If you're
in that game.
An FSU fan, you got to love the beginning of the schedule for a couple of reasons here. You get a week 0 game, which is fun. You don't have to wait as long. Then you get like a prime time game. Then you're off, which is not the greatest, but whatever. But then you get a Friday night game against a good opponent. That just feels like just a great beginning to the season, entertainment value wise.
You went to a football school, right? You went to Virginia Tech, as I dox you on air. And what is like the point of view that's articulated by people who cover college football seems to be that when you're part of like boots on the ground fan base of a college football school, any game that is not played on a Saturday is like a travesty for you as a fan. Whereas I view it from the perspective of just more content, more games, more times to gamble.
It's only awful. I think what they're really trying to say is like fans that want to visit, right? Because if you're a Hokie, and a lot of our fan base is on the east side of Virginia, right? It's Northern Virginia, it's Richmond, it's Newport News. Like, it's that East Coast. Like, if the great thing is a Thursday night game, that's like epic, amazing Virginia Tech game to be at in person. And those are just super difficult, right? Because, like, how many hotels are there in Blacksburg? Like 2.5, maybe.
But is that a unique Virginia Tech atmosphere thing because Sandman's even cooler on a weekday and night? Or if you weren't Virginia Tech, would the same things apply?
If it's night game, the first prereq for Enter Sandman is night. Okay, it's just got to be at night. It's a day is cool, 100%. But
Yeah.
I have like in my experience of going to day games as well as night games, even if we got pummeled, even if it was freezing, even if it was cold, wet, whatever, was night was always the best.
Of course.
Thursday night's going to be great. A lot of times it's just because like the momentum, like nobody goes to class that day, which is just always fun. Everybody cancels class the next day, or expects you not to show up. So I always tell people, I actually told one of the guys, a guy I met through my wife a couple of weeks back, like, he's like, that's one of my like top 10 things I want to do before I die is go to a Virginia Tech game. And I'm like, please just go at night. Like it has to be a night game. It'll be a pain in the ass to schedule and to plan just because of the way Blacksburg is. And, there's not a lot of close cities. You can't really fly to Blacksburg, but do a night game. It's 100% the way to do it.
All right.
Sick.
So back to the
L
topic.
at Louisville.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what
easily.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Long and short, loss.
All right. Boston College. They get him at home.
I mean, I'm not a huge Boston College guy.
Not either, but I think that it's gonna be a lot closer than
I'll go
Like
Florida State. I'll say Florida State.
I'm
here.
probably leaning that
Yeah,
way
I'm fine.
too.
I'm fine with that.
They're 2-2, and then they get Wake Forest, which I think we're gonna say that's a loss.
I just don't think they can keep up with Wake.
Wake Forest homecoming, ugh. But I guess it's better than the alternative in a couple weeks. They get so Wake Forest, we're gonna say loss.
Yep,
At NC State,
loss.
loss. Clemson, loss.
It's gonna be like a super ugly game.
Yeah, Travis is either dead or dying with that game.
Yeah, 17-10, super boring, one offensive touchdown type of thing.
Okay. And they get the second bye week after Clemson. They're gonna need it. And then they get Georgia Tech.
Travis is back, kind of healthy now.
Right. Yeah, he's good for another.
He's
20
upright.
carries.
He's standing upright. I think they win. I think
Yeah,
we've already done Georgia Tech's schedule, and they only won twice. So I don't think this was one.
Well,
of
a
their
lot
best.
has changed since we did it, but I'm willing to go with Florida State losing or winning. I'm sorry,
Losing?
winning.
Okay. Say,
Winning,
wait a minute.
winning.
Now you're just throwing a whole wrench into everything. Like, wait a minute. So Florida State is now 3-4. We'll count it up in a minute. So then they go at Miami,
Loss.
at Syracuse. I'll give them the win.
I don't know, man. I think I would lean Syracuse. It's almost like a battle of their own self, right? Schrader and Jordan Travis are like the same guy,
Are we
except
split?
they don't have Sean Tucker. So I kind of like Syracuse there.
Split. So Andrew.
We can go Syracuse.
Hey, so that's a loss. Then they get a really tough, like, non-conference game right before they play Florida. Louisiana.
This might be the game that gets Norville canned.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're saying
he probably
loss.
has like a countdown. Yeah, he's probably got a countdown in his office that nobody knows of. That's like just to this game. He's thinking like, if I lose this game, I'm out. Like there's no coming back from this. So, I mean, I think he loses. Louisiana wins that one. I think we've done that one already.
And then they close with Florida.
It doesn't get better.
So if we're saying loss, they lose 4 of the last 5. So they won 1, 2, 3.
They win 3.
3 games. Andrew, do you have the total up?
No,
Really?
didn't even cross my mind.
It
I'm thinking
cannot
it's
be
probably
that high.
higher than 3.
It's got to be higher than 3.
Probably like
It's probably
5.5
like
or
4.
something.
I was gonna say 4.5, maybe 5.
I don't know what the. We'll look it up. I'll have them all. Florida State 6.5 is the number.
Wow.
We have them winning 3 games. Like, I'm cool with it running with 3 and getting all the hate mail from Florida State fans, but I'm having a hard time picking up 3, possibly 4 more games there. Like if we've already said they're losing to Louisville, they're losing to
Who
Wake
do you
Forest.
think that? Yeah, who do you think it is?
That's what I'm
They
saying.
got to be counting Louisiana.
Yeah.
And there's heavy juice on the over too.
So they're going to beat Georgia Tech. That's we already gave Syracuse. It's got to be Syracuse.
It's got to be Syracuse.
Syracuse, Louisiana, Georgia
Yeah.
Tech,
BC.
Boston College, Louisville. That's still only 5. And Duquesne, 6. Duquesne,
yeah.
6.
No, I would say Wake Forest is the next, or Louisville's the next close. Those have to be the next closest too, right? Like
Florida.
Yeah.
Florida's there-ish.
I don't know. We're going to run
Yeah.
with 3. We're riding with 3, and we're just going to be.
If you're
we're-
listening to this, you need to bet the under.
I mean, I'm having a hard time picking, even getting to 6, really.
Some
Let
people
alone
look
7.
for comfort in their numbers being in the same ballpark as Vegas's, but we as thought leaders
Yes.
are fine with deviation from.
So tomorrow, when that
accepted-
number drops to
accepted,
4.5, you'll know why.
Yeah.
Vegas, listen to our podcast.
Exactly.
All right, we can go ahead and move to this next team. Central Michigan. It was another Discord mention, so we like to cover all the Discord requests. as we
Surprised
can.
Brandon still interacts with us after we put Michigan State in a pine box.
Yeah, we weren't very nice to them.
Oh, no, we were not. All right, let's go ahead and go get started on Central Michigan. So they open up at Oklahoma State. I feel like they've played every year for the last
It's a
4
total revenge game.
I feel
total
like this is the
revenge
game they
game.
always play.
I don't think Oklahoma State will ever, because that was the Corey Davis amazing finale, wasn't it? In the
That's
bowl
what-
game against
that's-
Oklahoma State?
That's Western
No.
Michigan, though.
Oh, they're all the same.
Says the Michigan fan. So loss. We're gonna go ahead and get loss. Oklahoma
Yeah,
State.
dude.
South Alabama. Like
I was
stop.
listening to Nick and team talk about South Alabama yesterday, and it made me want to bet the over because they were talking about a path where South Alabama gets like 8 or 9 wins, and the Vegas total for them I think is like 5.5, maybe. I don't.
But that game is obviously critical on like South Alabama fulfilling that prophecy. That I love those kind of like those G5 versus G5 from different conference non-conference games. Like those are so fun.
Like a bowl game.
Same
Yeah,
tier
exactly.
type, yeah. I want some vindication here. I looked it up real quick. It was not the Corey Davis game. I apologize. It was the untimed down that gave them another play to then for CMU to win. And like the next year, this is 2016. Like the next year, he still would not admit that they lost to Central Michigan.
That's crazy. I don't remember that at all.
So, anyways, sorry.
But what do we really think? Central Michigan, like Lou Nichols is just going to get the ball a ton, right? Like that's kind of the game
I've
plan.
been drafting him more than I would like to. But usually where I target him is in the eliminator format that Greg runs, because the money weeks or those action weeks, like where you really
Getting Mac guys, if you can eke out the beginning weeks, like make it through the non-conference without getting 3 strikes, and then it's like, all right, now I'm just dealing with those awesome Mac weeks, and those guys all shift to like the high value plays that you want to have in your lineup. So it makes a lot of sense to target Nichols there, assuming you can figure out a way to win, to not lose the weeks where he might not enter your lineup. Which is last year when I entered those leagues, I did it from the opposite angle, which is like, even though I ended up winning, I think at least one of those, it's like a loser mentality. It's like, I'll avoid the Mac because I don't want to get strikes. Well, how about I actually go and try and win this damn thing instead? But I don't know. I'm still kind of sketched on Nichols a little bit, just from the perspective of what we should expect with the offense this year with coordinator change. But it's tough to like feel too confidently that he's not going to be an awesome player this year. Like it's not a stand I really want to take.
They got some good offensive players, which maybe will help. Like, maybe there's not full blown like visibility straight on Nichols. Like,
Yeah.
I think Pimpleton loss will be tough because he was so good at returns and stuff. Like, he was so good in the special teams game, and obviously as a receiver was very, very good. So I think they're not going to be as good as last year. But Richardson returns, and he was a young guy last year, so that's always nice. So I don't know. I think you guys can pick South Alabama game. I would probably lean.
I say South Alabama.
Yeah, I would say I typically like to probably just go the opposite of MAC, just because MAC typically tends to be the worst conference.
Mac, yeah.
I was gonna say Central Michigan, so you guys override. So South Alabama, so they're 0-2 now. Bucknell, we're gonna give them the win.
Win.
At Penn State, doesn't seem ideal.
L.
Loss. And they at Toledo, loss.
Yeah, they're not coming out of the Glass Bowl with a win.
And they get Ball State homecoming.
It's a win.
It's a win, yeah.
At Akron.
We can give them a win. I got roped into the Akron over 2.5 train when that was circulating Twitter a few weeks ago, but still, I don't think that's one of the wins for Akron.
Then they back-to-back wins, Ball State and Akron. Then they go Bowling Green.
Win.
I think we give them that win too. So 3 in a row going into the bye. They go at Northern Illinois on a Wednesday night. This is when the MACtion starts. November 2nd, Wednesday. Loss.
How many rush yards are in that game? 600.
I mean, I would say like to truly hit on like a true MACtion of it, it would be 40-mile-an-hour winds. It would be 13 degrees out, and both quarterbacks throw for 700 yards total. Like combined, like it would just be the complete opposite of what you're expecting. 2 great run games. All right, yeah. Let's just chuck it 40 times each, and
so loss. I agree with loss.
I think loss. Yeah.
And they get Buffalo on another Wednesday, a following Wednesday. I think they can get that one. Win that one.
Yeah, we can give them a win there.
And then they close up with Western on the following Wednesday. So 3 Wednesdays in a row.
Of course.
And then
Do you feel that there's that they try and give one of the MACtion days, like this is the premier day, and then we put the secondary teams on the other day? Or
I think Wednesday's got to be the elite day, and Tuesday.
I always thought it was Tuesday.
See, I kind of feel the opposite because Wednesday just feels. I mean, it's just closer to Saturday. So, when the season gets flipped or whatever for them, I don't know.
I mean, they're not competing with anybody in terms of TV.
Yeah, it's, they're not on Thursday night, which is Grey's Anatomy and Station 19. So
correct.
Monday is Bachelor.
So do we think they beat Western Michigan?
I think they beat Western.
Yeah, I do too.
Then at Eastern, I say they lose. Friday night, Black Friday.
Another tremendous window. Black Friday window.
A noon
But
kick.
they also get an extra 2 days off. Like they have an extra 2 days to get ready for it.
Badoon's catching 17 passes in that game for 97 yards.
Obviously,
I can go Eastern. I'm down.
I go
for
Eastern. All right. So to recap, we got one more team, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 wins. Central.
That feels lower than what I would have guessed beforehand, but I think we are pretty fair.
Central 7.5 is their total. Oh, 6. It's not crazy.
We only gave them 6. It felt like we were just reeling off wins for them.
Well, we did 3 in a row, but it was right after they lost the first 2. They beat Bucknell, so there's 1. Loss,
true.
win. So there's 4. Loss, win, loss. So 6. Go ahead and move to the final team. Another Discord request. Houston. Open up at UTSA in the Alamo Dome. That seems like a really good week 1 matchup.
That's a fun G5 game for sure.
Like UTSA definitely, I think you could say they overachieved last year. They were 11-1 or whatever the heck they were, 12-1 in the bowl game. But I don't know that they do that again.
Yeah,
And
I think Houston wins this.
I think Houston probably has the better team. But I'll say Houston also.
Yeah. Yeah.
They get a win. Then they go at Texas Tech week 2.
I believe we picked Houston.
Yeah, I like
So
Houston.
I think we did
that's a
Texas Tech. Yeah.
4 p.m. FS1. That'll be a good. That'll make probably our week 1 V list
So,
for sure.
2-0.
Definitely.
Houston's 2-0. With again win against this UTSA and Texas Tech. Then they get week 3 against Kansas.
Win.
So I think we can
Yeah.
just group 3, 4, 5, and 6 together, and I think we can start them 6-0.
Yeah, I don't have any. I think Tulane could be tricky, theoretically speaking.
Memphis could be tricky in Memphis. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think Memphis historically has been last 3 or 4 years have been good enough to beat
That'll
just
be a
about
fun
anybody
game.
they play
And it's
So-
on a Friday night. What a great
in
decision.
Memphis.
By
I might have to
those
go to
guys.
that one.
Boots on the ground.
Might have to be Friday
That's a
night.
gimme.
ESPN 2.
Got to cross state borders for that one, though.
I will.
Path for the BL.
I'm cool with giving them. I could go either way. At Memphis, I have no issue.
I'm cool with them
loss.
beating Memphis. I'm just saying, in terms of tricky games, that's a tricky one.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it
tricky.
is.
Let's go 6-0.
6-0 bye week at Navy.
Win.
Win. And they come off of that with homecoming against South Florida. Win.
Win.
Here's the game at SMU.
Yeah, it's a good one.
At SMU.
Here's the deal. If they don't lose to SMU, they're not losing a game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I'm gonna give them loss.
I'm
at
cool with a
SMU.
loss there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
They
Temple,
What do you
East
think the
Carolina,
over-under
Tulsa.
is?
Or what? Their win total?
That'll be your classic 76.5.
Oh, for that game.
Yeah.
84.
no, I meant the over under for their win total. What do you think it is?
Oh, I wish. Not 76.5.
It's probably
It's
not
probably
11.
10.5.
It's probably
Yeah,
like 9.
high.
It's 9.
It's
Wow.
9. Wow.
Yeah, a little bit of juice on the over, not a ton.
So I would think they're going to say they're probably going to lose to Texas Tech. It's probably the one that they're going to try to say. Memphis is probably a 50-50.
SMU and then
SMU.
probably UTSA.
I'll say
they probably get
East Carolina
decent
could be
odds.
tricky too. At East Carolina.
I guess a little bit.
Because otherwise, if we don't pick, look, we're going to give them 11 wins. Otherwise,
I mean, we're giving them 11 wins.
that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
cool with it. I just
Schedule's
We're not
trash.
letting the Vegas number determine our
Right.
number. Zach.
absolutely, absolutely.
went
No,
over
I,
this.
I wasn't saying we were. 11 wins it is for Houston.
Love it.
Well, that's all for our win total series, and I think we need to get back to our lives at some point.
Yeah, I got to
think
go
that's-
make dinner. So
Yes,
I gotta
really
run.
do after work
So-
things.
So, until next week, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good night.
see you guys.
Later.